not hear me? I just want to make sure. Yes, Nick, you can hear me. Oh, perfect. Hello. Thank you, Richie. All right. Awesome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Josh Penzell. And we got so much to cover today about AI. I'm super excited. So I'm just going to get into it here. If everyone can see my screen, we'll just make sure. Perfect. So looks like subtitles are working. Everything's up. Now we're getting to roll. It's great in this age of AI that we can, finally be starting to get a hold on everything. Right. So I am Josh Penzell, as was introduced. I'm the VP of AI Strategy and Innovation at ELB Learning. I've led L&D teams at Amazon Alexa, which now is going to talk to me, Zillow Rentals, Skillsoft. I'm actually also one of the 14% of autistic individuals worldwide who is employable or can hold down a job. And so I always say that because there's a lot of great talent out there. I actually think AI is going to help solve that problem too. Finally, as you'll probably see, I'm extremely energetic, and that's partly because I have a background in theater. I was a musical theater director in New York for several years before I moved over and somehow became this AI sort of person. So let me start by asking you a question, though. Would you trust a physician or AI with diagnosing a problem? Would you go in and trust a physician or chat GPT? I'm guessing we know who we would trust, but a study was actually done recently, and it was just featured in the New York Times. You might have read it. So, this is what's fascinating if we look from the right to the left. Physicians alone and physicians who are in the middle column who use ChatGPT, they basically perform the same. But just ChatGPT by itself outperformed all the doctors and the doctors using AI. Now, we'll let that sink in for a second, that somehow the AI was able to diagnose patients better. And I highly recommend you read the study to figure out how they did that. But in talking about it, they said a few interesting things. One thing the study leader said, and I'm going to read this, was it turns out that when doctors often were not persuaded by the chatbot when it pointed something out that was at odds with their diagnosis. In other words, even though they had this amazing new tool at their disposal, they didn't always believe it. They didn't trust it. And even if it pointed something out, they didn't even listen. But there was another reason also that we saw this issue. They said that they also saw people using the AI, the LLM, which stands for a large language model, that's ChatGPT, as like a search engine, like a Google. I would contend they were actually using it like a tool. Instead of what I think we need to look at AI as, which is a colleague, a partner, a team member. AI is not just a new tool, AI is your new team member. And I know that might sound odd right now, but as we go through this presentation, what I want you to start thinking about is the reason the doctors weren't able to use this effectively, right? Is you have a tool and the tool's only as good as you are. You're putting information in, it's giving you some sort of something out. But with AI, it's able to look at that entire case study. It's able to provide and notice things we might not have noticed or we might have overlooked. To me, that's operating a lot more like a partner or a colleague, not a tool. And I think this is also how we will be able to engage and develop our employees. And let's just start with maybe some examples of what that might look like. I think that the future here is every single individual being able to hire and create their own team at scale. And I want you to think about this. You have something that is behaving like a human. It has the whole human knowledge. While it might start off and not give you what you want, you can coach it. And you can coach it to do different things. So I want you to start thinking about a shift in mindset, not just towards thinking of AI as this new hire, but as you starting to think of moving from a scarcity to an abundance point of view. You would never think to hire anyone, right? Like that's not something I have budget to do. But with AI, suddenly I can think differently and hire in ways I hadn't thought possible. Let me show you. Um, we create content tailored for everyone. Wouldn't that be awesome? We want personalized learning. Well, what if you could hire a content review team? Now, I'm guessing some of you go, "Oh yeah, I've used AI to review my stuff," right? Um, but it's usually not good. It takes too long, etc. But instead of thinking about it as this scarcity mindset of I have to give it all the information out front because time is limited and I'm paying for it to work, I can actually start to switch my model and say, you know what? I'm going to have it do all the work for me. Here's an article I pulled from the internet. We're actually going to look at it in a bit. And we can do what I'm about to do with just about any piece of content, including training. What this is going to do is look at the content. It's then going to look at who the intended audience is. So now I don't have to think about it. No cognitive load, right? It's telling me who would read this. It's then going to create the people who would fit into those categories for me. And it puts them into a focus group and they talk amongst themselves. And what I get back is a summary of their insights and findings and some recommended actions. And I can even have it go ahead and integrate all this feedback. Now, the value here isn't just that, it's reviewing everything. And if we think about taking a training outline and saying, hey, I want you to review this from these 10 learner personas, we can now start to get new ideas for things we never would have done before, right? A tool can review this, but a team of folks who can now go out, play act a whole bunch of roles, and give me in minutes 50 different opinions, that that is something that I could never have done before. And by the way, I just want to point out a couple things. None of what I'm showing you today is a product that I'm selling. I am using ChatGPT for what you're seeing right now. And everything that I'm talking about, I will send to you after this, or we'll have Jen send it in the Go One team. And all this programming, or however I made this, I created an onboarding document, which you might think of as a prompt that I give to AI. And so essentially it knows what I need. If I can do that for my team, I can also think about, whoa, what are the other ways I could start to support other people? What if I could give every single individual in my entire organization a tutor that they could learn anything from or can learn about my industry? I was talking to someone today in the, energy. Yes, I love that. I love that, Meredith. Uh, what subject? Let's say energy insurance. Okay. What's cool about now thinking about this is I can hire a tutor for each student, for each learner, for each employee, and it can act like a coach. So rather than sort of just telling me all the information and focusing on content, it can actually ask me questions to understand where I'm coming from. Once it knows that, it can then reinforce, give me some learning objectives, and then it can keep prompting me to give me more information. And I want to point out something else that we might not be thinking of. All of this data, this back and forth, this discussion, I can go access that at the end as the learning and development, human talent capital folks. And I can see not just what they're learning, I can see how they're learning it, how they're interacting, what questions they're asking. So I just want to start thinking about how you can think about that for every employee, right? I can start to hire and fire at will. This is a shift in learning. The fact that now I can give everyone this tutor. In fact, AI requires a shift because it's now thinking about hiring, right? We're thinking about like a person, not a technology. And for me, I think that is cognition is moving to metacognition. What that means is essentially, it's not what do you know, but it's how do you think about what you know? How do you interact with it? There's a great article that Google put out called The Metacognition Revolution. And I want you to see one of the things they said, which is imagine for a moment an assignment where the deliverable isn't the essay, but it's the student's entire revision history, all their prompts, all their interactions. Now I'm getting an insight not just into the final product, but into the entire pathway. And not only that, but I can have them review that as well. So we're moving to a different type of learning. And what if I could give every single person an AI student? What if instead of I just have an AI tutor that teaches me, my job as the learner is to teach an AI student to pass a quiz. So I'm not taking the quiz now. My job is to get this AI student to pass the quiz. So I might say, I'm a novice in, oh, you're a novice in musical theater, right? And now it's going to pretend I don't even know what this is. And it might prompt me for questions. But now I'm starting to have a metacognitive approach. And I want you to imagine having the AI adaptive tutor and this, and how you start to change the way you're doing what you do from a learning and development perspective. Who would you hire to your team right now if you could? Like, I want you to take a second, maybe even type it in. But if you could hire any type of person to your team, you had that abundance mindset, what would you hire? Who would you hire? I know some things I would hire, right? I'd hire a data analyst. And by the way, I'm going to go through these and then show you them. But I'd hire a data analyst that can take data from my LMS or from the end of my workshops and very quickly put that into a nice format that I can react to. I might want an e-learning developer who can create games for me that I never would have been able to create before and can create them for me perhaps in minutes, not hours or days. I might even want a software developer who can build entire programs for me. So, for instance, I love that, Rebecca, someone who wants to learn. Well, we could certainly create AIs that want to learn, an LMS architect. And maybe we would find, right, these are very complex. I have to build a whole program. That's not something I can do. I'm not a programmer, right? I have a master's of fine arts in theater. But now with AI, you can start to switch that. And instead of starting with, there's no way I could ever do that, we can start to say, I wonder if I could. So here is Claude. It's like ChatGPT, a competitor. And I've given it 3 feedback CSVs that have data. And it's going to start to build out an analysis for me that I can share. I'm going to come back to this, but this should show you what it gave out last time I did this. This is what it did after just an upload and asking it. So now I have overall sentiment. It gave me key themes, gave me confidence levels. And the best thing about this is a link I can send out to everyone, all my stakeholders. And let's go back and see if it's finished here. It's still going. So we'll come back to this in a second. But all I did, oh, there it is. I said, work your magic. I gave it this. And now look at this. And imagine being able to do this with data from your LMS, from data from Smile Sheets, anything. In fact, I'll use this sometimes, not just for data, but for taking articles or scientific scholarly articles and putting them in there, and it'll make it interactive for me. Oh, and by the way, if you're worried because you're like, nah, I wouldn't, this would never go by, I couldn't publish this, you get all the code. And then you could ask the AI, hey, how do I take this code and put it in, right? Here's another one. This is a game I created in Claude. Same exact way you just saw what I was doing, right? I can launch a mission, right? Oh, put in this article from the one that we talked about. There's a timer up here. Oh, what did they do? Use no significant. Good, it gives me a green. Here's some interesting, blah, blah, blah. And I created this in minutes. And the cool thing is, I want you to think about a world where instead of saying, hey, come in with 10 ideas, you say, come in with 10 prototypes. And if someone was to bring this in, again, I have a link because when I'm on these pages right down here, I didn't show it, sorry. I hit publish, I get a link, I can send it out to anyone. But the cool thing then is they can hit remix. So now they can take the idea you started and they can go play with it themselves. And this is where we're getting to a metacognitive approach of things, a brainstorming approach, right? We're moving further. Oh, and remember I was saying, wouldn't it be cool to have a software engineer? Well, this is something I built using AI. By the way, zero coding. So what I made here is I want to make sure when I'm developing my people, I'm matching the content to what they actually need, right? And learning objectives sometimes are tough. I used to study, ISD, instructional systems design. Some people don't do it. And so I said, I need a tool that can help me do that. I need it to teach people. And so I made a tool that goes out to AI and helps me look at learning objectives. And yes, this is powered by AI, but that's not the magic here. The magic was I can create anything instantly. Create me how about this? Someone said LMS architect. Let's see what we could do with that. Create I don't know, piece of software to help me manage my LMS. I don't know. One thing I hope you notice too is I'm not worrying about prompting or what I'm saying. Because again, scarcity versus abundance mindset. I just start. If it doesn't work, who cares? Digital photography, right? I'll just toss it. I don't need to process the film. So now it's going to say, hey, give me some questions. I'm going to say something like, I don't know yet. Because again, it's not a tool, it's this person I can work with almost. In fact, this is my software development team. It's going to give me a proposal. I just want to show you so then we can start building it and then I can move on. I'm going to say, yeah, let's build all this. And it's not just going to give me the coding. It's literally going to start building the entire program. And at the end, you can hit this button, deploy, and then it'll give me what I want. Now, I'm showing you a lot of amazing stuff, and that's great. And I'm happy, and I'll give it to you all. But I think we're still missing some other stuff. By the way, I also created a TA that can be in live in-person classes. It can listen in real time and send to students a transcription. And I don't start with these ideas, I figure them out. So the question is, and this is getting to something Chuck's talking about in the chat, how do I empower employees to now use this? So I've shown you all these great tools. Y'all are like, great, that's awesome. You really know what you're doing, Josh. So, you know, and also, by the way, before I even want to start using this thing, I'm really worried it's going to take my job. So no thanks, right? Not interested. Well, AI isn't really coming for your job, right? According to McKinsey, only 5% of jobs can be fully automated. So I'm not going to lie, will there be some disruption? Absolutely. But 60% of jobs have 30% of automatable tasks, meaning that those are easy things for us to let AI do for us. So the new question is, how are you going to transform the work you do and transform your people to get more value out of what they're doing, not to save money? And not only that, but when they start using it, they have more fun at work. Engaged employees find their work, employees who use AI enjoy their work more, are more motivated, and it boosts their creativity. By the way, I don't have to talk about engagement and how much we've tried to sort of get that. But look at this. I am empowering individuals with the ability to do what the heck they need so they can solve problems. And by the way, that can be scary for a lot of organizations because they're giving up control. C-suite expectations are productivity, increase the demands on workers, will increase output, we'll need them to have more responsibilities, right? And of course, it ain't working. I mean, you know this. People using it are decreasing productivity. They don't know what to do. And not only that, but I like pointing out, if you look at the top of this chart, who is the generation you would be most likely to informally allow to train the rest of your organization? The youngest generation, who, by the way, right now says they're the most burnt out. This is according to Upwork research. I think the other problem here, though, is this misalignment with this whole productivity efficiency thing. Because again, this is not letting me do stuff. It's not only letting me do stuff I used to do faster, it's letting me do things I never would have done before, which allows me to come up with solutions I never would have thought of before. So, how do I get people to use AI correctly? We saw at the beginning, doctors, independent of prompting and all this stuff, they just weren't treating it right. They didn't know when to trust it. They ignored it too much. And sometimes they end up performing worse. I mean, this is what the data shows. And by the way, this is a study improving human AI collaboration. And you know what the thing they found actually has the biggest impact here? If you just tell people about how AI works, people perform better. So if I tell you and I tell your team, hey, just so you know, AI is going to do all this stuff and it's 20% of the time might hallucinate. Now I will trust it more because I know how it operates. And look at this. Not only that, I get more improvement of this is what the study showed. Faster learning, more trust. And you can see what they were doing here is all of a sudden, just from just knowing how it behaves. And by the way, here's something fascinating. If you think about leadership training or mentorship training or any of that stuff, sorry, manager training or any of these things you've done, behavior, servant leadership, it's all about understanding who you are leading, correct? So, how are you going to hire and coach a new AI team member? How are you going to tell everyone else to do that? I have a process. I'm going to demonstrate it in a second. I'm actually going to demonstrate it first, and then I'll codify it in a second after that. So I'm just going to open up a blank ChatGPT window. And like some folks were pointing out, there's two ways I can start with this, right? I can have a huge prompt, or I can just start talking. And if I'm hiring a human being, I'm paying them minute one, day one. So I need to give them an onboarding document. I need to tell them what they're doing. I need to provide them stuff so they are effective because it's costing me money. This doesn't cost me anything to open up a new window. So rather than thinking about what I need to do, I'm just going to start with whatever problem it is I'm trying to solve. So, for instance, I might even say something like, here, I'm having trouble. I'm going to look at Nick's thing here. I'm having trouble getting people to trust AI, and I want to implement it. Okay. I don't even know what I want right now. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I want. I'm just trying to figure it out. Now, what I do now is because I don't have to worry about the cognitive thing, once I start using it, I don't worry about everything it's giving me being right. Instead, what I look for is what I am reacting to, what I want to dig into more, what's interesting. And so I'm looking at this. This is all pretty boring. Great. Start with transparency, collaborate, build trust, all this stuff. And this is interesting. Use AI tools that allow for interoperability so stakeholders feel they can trust the outputs. So I'm actually going to just dig into that a little bit more. I want to look at number 3. I thought all AIs were black boxes, meaning I thought all AIs, you couldn't tell what they were doing. Now, I still don't know what I'm trying to achieve yet, but I'm just talking, I'm discussing, I'm dialoguing with the AI, just like I would a new hire and trying to figure out, what are you good at? What can you help me with? And still, I don't know, there's nothing here that's striking me, except for maybe, what are these local explainability tools? So maybe I could say, let's dig into those tools. And at some point, I start to say, what's really interesting? Maybe there's something about tools, there's something about explaining AI models. Huh. What would be really great? I'm just discovering this from talking. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a way that I could give an AI or hire an assistant and give it out to my teams so they could like get these explanations directly? In fact, maybe, and I'm just going to make this a little smaller. Maybe there's even, I don't know, some way I can use it beyond just this black box thing. I'm actually going to dig into this a little more. I like this concept of having models to explain stuff. What if I wanted to give you uh, an idea, and you tell me models that are out there? Okay, so I'm just talking, I'm dialoguing, I've discovered something that's useful. And now what I need to do is figure out exactly, and by the way, you might say by this point, boring, terrible, throw it out. We've spent 5 minutes, who cares? But I start to think, this is interesting. What would be cool is if I can hire you to do this. So I'm going to say something like, this is cool. To bring this to life, I want you, right, to run me through the above. What prompt would I give you to do that at the very beginning of our conversation? So now that I've discovered a use case and I'm sort of starting to define what it is, I can now have it write the prompt for me. And by the way, if you think about coaching a new employee or coaching a new hire, I probably at the end of the day would say, write down everything you did. The other thing that you can do, not with the tool, but with AI, just like you can do with a new hire, make it better. So I can say stuff like, I don't even know what to do next. I want you to make this better. Great. And now it's going to start building this. Now I'll look at this and I'll go, you know what the problem is? I don't know. This isn't, it's just about AI. And I don't think you're getting it. This is more about technology. So I might say, I want this to be about any subject. And I'm thinking of mental models. What's the prompt I should use? And again, now I'm delegating to it the work to do. And when I am done, I'm going to have a prompt. When I take this prompt, so here we go, to do it, make it better, but just for the sake of it, all these other things, my adaptive tutor, my content reviewer, right? All of these, this is how I build it. I have it write the prompt for me. And then I can either start a new chat and keep this chat open, right? And always sort of go back to it, or I can go and create a GPT, which I'm going to do right now. And I think some of you have said you've created GPTs. So a GPT is essentially a custom chat, a chat GPT. But the thing is, I want you to think this doesn't matter if you're using Claude, if you're using any of these, the prompts are the same. But really quickly now I can do, just to show you, put this in here. I'll call this my mental model tutor. Helps with mental models. I hit create, and now I have a link I can send out to everyone. And I did that in 10 minutes. Is it perfect? No, we're going to want to test it. But I could bring 10 of these into you tomorrow, and everyone else can. And best of all, I didn't use any mental cognitive energy having to think about how to prompt. In fact, I just started. And so my model, when I think about this and what I've put together, just for me, is a 5D model. I decide to use it. I discuss with it. So I engage it in conversation. Again, abundance model. So there is no downside to hiring AI, because worst that happens is I lose 2 minutes. I start discussing with it. I give it feedback. I give it notes. I push and pull. And then at some point, I discover a use case. I discover something I want to use over and over again. And then I start to define what that is with it, and I delegate the prompt writing to it. And you can use a prompt, something like, if I wanted you to give me this result immediately, what prompt could I have given you at the beginning of this conversation? And if you right now have ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Gemini, whatever it is, and you have conversations on the left side where you spent 30 minutes trying to get the AI to finally give you the thing you wanted, go back to that chat right now and put this prompt in. I might even suggest saying something like, looking at the above, what were your lessons learned? What would you do differently next time? And then, if I wanted you to give me this, what prompt? That is how you see productivity, is by not having to do all that work again. And so the first time I spend 2 hours trying to get a content reviewer together. I then do all the work so I never have to do that again. That's how you saw the visual image thing I created on Coursera. I'm sorry, not Coursera, that you saw me create on Claude. Actually got me MBA on Coursera, by the way. So, and I want you to think about this. What is your internet strategy for employee development? I'm guessing you're looking at me like I'm an idiot, or you're like, that's a ridiculous question. And what if that said, what is your AI strategy for employee development? Why is that not just as ridiculous? I mean that in a nice way, but we don't have internet strategy now for developing employees. I mean, maybe 30 years ago we did, but it also took 10 years or more for us to move from, remember, T1 lines in the office, internetworks, right? Intranets, email, then it became, oh my gosh, and then we could dial in, and then you had PC anywhere. And finally, we had networks and we could carry around stuff. And that took a long time to get there, which is why you might have needed a strategy, right? The problem is now AI is here, day one. And not just does your organization have it, your competitors has it, every single one of your employees has it, and every single one of your customers has it. So we're already behind the eight ball here. And I hear a lot of folks saying stuff like, we got to start an AI committee and we got to do this and we have to put guardrails. And I don't disagree with any of that. And we need to start. So, what do you do next? One of the big gaps I see, right, is people are like, I'm worried, I don't want to get in trouble. Two things either happen: they don't use the AI, or they're using it and they don't tell you. In the United States, 78% of workers are using AI at work with or without telling their bosses. So there is a risk in letting people use AI. I would say there's a bigger risk in not letting them use AI. We also just need to decide to use AI. We just need to start using it. We, if you're going to wait to use it, right, until you know what it is you need to do and you know the prompt and you know all that, you've already taken way too much time. And frankly, right, the AI model is probably already developed past you. Start using this, because the worst AI you're ever going to use is the AI you're using right now. And I cannot stress enough this shift in mindset. I know I talk about hiring an AI because to me it makes it less overwhelming in the sense that I can delegate stuff out. But really, at the core of that is this idea of digital photography, is this idea of there's no one being hurt if I fire AI. I'm not wasting any money. I'm not causing budget. I remember when I was in IT 30 years ago when I started, uh, I bricked, if I don't know if you ever bricked anything, but essentially you make an update and the $1 million or whatever is suddenly dead. I don't have to worry about that now. It's like photography, right? I mean, I'm not to process it. And so if that's the case, then you just need to talk to AI. You just need to start. And the best way I've seen to do that with organizations is to show them examples of what they could possibly be doing they haven't done before. And by the way, those can be personal. One of my favorites, I have a colleague who doesn't buy as many books anymore for her kids because she has ChatGPT write them. And she told me her kids have met Spider-Man, Batman, right? Now she's not publishing them out, and I guarantee they are not the official Batman, so copyright. But just think about that shift in thinking. To me, that's, I don't know, there's a lot there, right? Um, I'm getting to the end of what I wanted to share, but I did want to go back, first of all, to our LMS management system thing we created, which, by the way, seems to be working in some capacity. Here's my registration page. From one sentence. And I want to share with you, maybe to help you start to think bigger. What are the things you're not even thinking of now? I was at TechLearn, the conference, and I was talking with someone and I said, we all have webcams, but like the frustrating thing is, like my webcams are, sorry, I'm trying to change the slide that I am sharing here so I can demonstrate this. So give me a second here. I'm actually going to stop sharing and share again. But I said we all have webcams. Data's good. Why are we not Tracking eyes. Like, why am I not tracking eyes and just getting the data? And so I asked Replit to help me build one. And just to show you what's possible with no programming, and you can see the messy bed behind me, which of course is, oh, it's actually going from a different camera. So that's interesting. Um, so that is not the camera I need them to go on. So we will reset this later so you can see it, but I okay, guarantee it actually does start to, well, do the eye tracking. Oh, there we go. Do you see that dot? And there you see the analysis. Sorry for the mess, but what are you going to do? Hopefully, this is so much cooler that you don't care. It, would you have ever thought, I'm going to create a tool that can track eyes and give me metrics? You'd never even go down that route because you would say, I don't even know how that is valuable. But now you can start from an abundance mindset and react. Two thoughts to leave you with before I open it up for questions. First, I saw some folks talking about, should I be polite to the AI? And I don't know if any of y'all saw, but OpenAI actually addressed this question. And what they said has made me think so differently about everything. Okay. They said being polite does not matter. Sorry. The model doesn't care. But the model needs context, it needs data. And the folks who are polite provide more context. That reminds me a lot of when we used to say sales and customer service, right? Smile, because they can hear the smile on the other end. And that has nothing to do with AI, it has nothing to do with the tool, it has everything to do with me. And the skill isn't prompting or engineering or AI usage, right? The skill is providing context. To me, there is something fascinating about that mind shift. And the last thing before I open this up to questions, if this is something built on the corpus of human knowledge, the humanities, and it is built to mimic human behavior, who else but the human behavior experts who work on employee development, who work on human development, who know how to coach and work with humans? Who else but them should be leading this charge? Who else but you already have the capabilities to do this? This is not an IT thing. This is not a tech thing. This is a human thing. And you all, you're the human performance experts. So I hope you will go out and start empowering yourself, your teams, and your employees to use AI in whatever ways you can. And with that, I'll start answering any questions that have come in. I'll try to check the chat as well. I see one question that came in was, have you got a preference for the AI platforms? Are they similar in output? I've only used ChatGPT. I would say when you hire different employees, some of them have different backgrounds, different experiences, right? They went to different universities. Similarly, every model operates differently. And we need to slightly talk with it and figure out what it's good at. I like to use Claude for those quick development things, the images, creating a calculator, a QR code generator, right? Because I can see it and react to it immediately. I love ChatGPT because I can pre-build all these little assistants that I can click on. I also like Gemini when I have to do something big. But that's me. And so my suggestion is, if you are very used to using one thing, What I want you to do is start using another one and learn how it talks, because it is different. It will respond differently and it will operate differently. So let me see what other questions are coming up. We have 10 more minutes. And so I'm also happy to share more of the fun stuff that I do. I'd love to see what questions we have, if there are any. Maybe one I'll answer before it comes up. A lot of times I'm getting security being an issue, right? So I can't use this because my organization won't allow it. I can't use this because um, we don't, proprietary information, all of that. You can run large language models, generative AI, right on your computer. No internet required. Is it as powerful? No. Is it as fast? No. But does it do the job? Yeah. Is it secure? Yeah. I will send out in the follow up uh, the tool that I've created to do that, which I would demonstrate, except if I shut off my internet right now to prove it to you, I'll lose your connection. But you can do just about anything. So if you want to run an AI on your computer or on your phone, it is doable. And you can ask me, or simply can go to ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot and start using it. Copilot, which I assume you mean Microsoft Copilot, Richie. I don't enterprise at my organization use Microsoft products as much. Organizations that are enterprise that are rolling out Copilot, um, you can do all the same stuff that I just did with OpenAI. You can do all the same stuff I just did. So that the images might look different, it might not code it, but all the prompts, it will all work exactly the same. So there are times when I will use it, but usually I'm not using Copilot simply because I'm not in a Microsoft shop. That being said, the integrations it's rolling out into, say, Excel and PowerPoint are getting so much better that it's probably time for me to revisit it is seriously in my own work, right? And start talking more with it, just like all these others. Um, what other questions can I answer for you? Oh, I see another one coming in. Who will be the deep Meredith asks, who will be the deep technical masters if we are not thinking? Or is the critical thinking about analyzing the results the AI produces? To the last point you provided, Meredith, that's the important. The critical thinking and the metacognition is where we will go. And the skill of the future will be making sure you're double checking everything, right? My guess and my hunch tells me as the AI gets better and as our assistants get better, we will be less, we will provide less oversight because a 1% chance of failure is a lot different than 40% chance. And that's when you start getting into very expensive mistakes. So for me, what we need to start doing, just like calculator or anything else, is we need to start enabling thinking differently about how we train and how we learn and how we do environments. Just like the AI adapter, just like that AI student. What are the new paradigms we can shift to? Yeah, I had another thought, but I'll pause there for a second. So, um, thanks, Steph, for the information. Thanks, Deb. I have a couple more things I can share. So, if you'd like, just because why not? I'll share a couple other things, and in that time, maybe someone else will have more questions. So I'll go back here. We'll put this back on. Awesome. So I showed you my content reviewer. One of the problems people often point out to me, and I point out, right, is the content reviewer is great, or it's great to review content, but the problem is I still end up having to rewrite it, right? So I created a ghostwriter for myself. I talked to the AI, gave it a bunch of stuff of mine, said, build a style guide. And then I said, hey, I want you to write in my style. I'm actually just going to give it this article. Why not? Rewrite this article in my style, which, by the way, I haven't realized, but that's actually kind of dangerous, right? From a copyright point of view, if I was actually to use that. But let's just assume that was a LinkedIn post. So one of the things people say is, I'm taking it out of AI and then I'm editing it always because it's never perfect. So once you're at that point, the question is, how do I reduce that part of my process? And so, that's where you start to get more productivity out of this. Um, Going back, because I don't think I wanted to show another one of my Claude projects, which I think is fun. I've created a simulator. So imagine you want to simulate something. Let's simulate the impact of AI on the organization's bottom line. And it'll start to create a simulation where I can move all these things. I think the confidence in the workplace and AI adoption will improve from IT management will become the default way of working rather than an add-on, I hope, Nick. You know what, Nick? If it doesn't become that, your talent and your organization will solve that for you, right? People in college right now are not going to want to work for organizations where, you know, they can't use AI. The top talent who are using AI right now, they're going to want to go to other organizations that use AI. Not only that, but they're probably going to hide all of the cool stuff they're doing from you because they're worried if they show you, let's give them more work. So, what is the way as an organization we solve this? And I think what we're going to see is a lot of organizations doing a top down approach. Here's how you use it. Here are the GPTs you have to use in this specific way. And I think we need to start at the bottom up. Here you have this amazing, powerful thing, just like you do at home. Use it in these boundaries, and then we want to incentivize somehow folks to share that information up so we can all benefit from it. So here's a simulator I had to create, right? Let's say the initial investment is 4.6 million. Let's do a little less. Say we have more employees, right? And I can start to see, for instance, on my ROI, how all of these things are affected. Everything to say, make it better. And again, if this is the sort of thing you wanted to put into a course, get the code, I put it in. Pretty easy. So what other questions are coming up? I see there's none, so maybe everyone's just, you know, sort of like in a mental space, which I totally understand. At the end of this session, I'm going to give you, or you're going to get something that looks like a GPT. It's a link, and it will be trained on this session. So here's an example of one I've done previously on transforming intake. And what's cool now is you don't just have the transcript, you don't just have the video, you don't just have the tools. You can talk to the workshop. It can brainstorm with you. We're all trotting with Claude. That's fine, Nick. Replit is the one y'all need to go to because that's where it gets really nuts. Is you can start building these platforms. Another one I'll just throw out there is bolt.new. Same sort of thing. I just can't use it right now because I hit my limit and I don't want to pay more. It's a crazy spot that we're in. And I can guarantee you that content will not, the quality of the content and the content being given to each person at the exact moment they need by looking at it in a deeper way, that's where stuff's going to be special. And I did notice, I think, right? Go one. can look at all these videos and figure out through all sorts of other stuff, right? Which are the right ones for me? Which ones are good for the way I learn? Don't think about learning paths for 10 people anymore or 10 learning personas. Think about individual paths for each individual at scale. So, anyway, with that, I'll answer the question, what am I most excited about? I will put this. So, I'm most excited about the fact that I can do all the stuff I couldn't before and what I'm going to be able to do next. I'm excited for all those ideas that I've never been able to pursue that now I can dive deep in 5 minutes. The problem now is how to capture them all, how to get them all out there. Um, I think for neurodiverse individuals, this is going to be a game changer. And I think those organizations that embrace it will see not just everything good as a result, but you'll be getting more out of a large portion of your organization because they'll have more fun and they'll come up with more ideas and they'll feel empowered. I'm hopeful that I have at least 30, 40 years to see what happens next. I do too. I'm also, always I'm excited for the self-driving cars thing. I did work at an autonomous vehicle company. And actually, maybe it's a good paradigm to leave you with. Does a self-driving vehicle need a windshield? Well, if it can drive itself, why does it need a steering wheel? Why does it need a windshield? Why does it need a front and back? If all it's doing is getting people from point A to point B, and that is the goal, why are we focused on building something that everyone has to buy? Why aren't we focused on solving the actual problem? And what AI is going to allow us in the L&D talent development community to do is finally solve the real problem. With that, I see we're at time. I say thank you for inviting me. Go